So good evening. I'm Elizabeth Hargrave. I'm the president of the Mycological Association of Washington, D.C., and welcome to our April meeting. Tonight, I'm going to do a little intro with some club news and some fungi in the news. Mitch is going to do our ID table. Tom McCoy has a short little talk about Rachel Carson. And then our main event is Judy Jacob, who is here to talk about lichens, biofilms, and marble monuments, which is a subject near and dear to our hearts here in DC. Lots of upcoming events. We've got our monthly DNA day coming up. April and the Culinary Committee have scheduled a mushroom fermentation workshop, which is going to be a Zoom workshop with Pascal Bodard. Is that how you say his name? And April, maybe do you want to chime in actually and talk a little bit more about that? And then coming up in June, we've also got a tasting coming up.
Yeah. So I am super excited to have Pascal Bodard. If you're not familiar with him, he's like the guy for well-crafted fermentation. He's got several books that I regularly use to ferment all sorts of things. And he has an ongoing or like occasional workshop on mushroom fermentation. So it's going to be a hands-on thing. You should have gotten the notification about it that includes the join link and the few ingredients that you would want to purchase for that. And yeah, there's no registration required. Just show up. Um, and then to quickly touch on a few other things, also going to be at the Anacostia Earth Day again, April 20th. I know that coincides with the truffle talk, but hopefully see a few members out, especially if you're out that way. And the tasting, you should have gotten a registration email about last night. We're actually almost half full after one day. But still plenty of space because it is a total of I think 75 spots. So initially I had a deadline to of like I think end of this week to fill out the form if you wanted to cook or be a volunteer, but we actually need neither at this point. So yeah, it's going to be a great event. And then also the picnic we have confirmed for July 28th, and that will be at Carteret this year. So you'll get more details about that later.
Yeah, lots of fun culinary stuff going on.
I
Culinary,
didn't have like a kitchen table this week because I didn't get any pictures or recipes or anything from stuff you're cooking. I'm happy to do that in future months as we start to get in the mushrooming season. So just send your photos to culinary@mawdc.org.
awesome. So culinary adjacent, Mike Castellana is gonna come back out to the DC area on April 20th. He'll be here giving a truffle talk in the afternoon at Mount Rainier Nature Center. That's a Saturday afternoon, and then he's gonna do walks that Saturday and Sunday morning to actually go look at truffles. We don't have the highly prized edible truffles that they don't grow in the DC area, but we do actually have many fungi that form truffles that are cool to look for, and they can be a cool sign of where critters have been digging and things like that. Just interesting ecosystem things happening around truffles in our area. So that's on April 20th. Great opportunity to see folks from the club and learn Kaz's wisdom. He's been a truffle expert for a long, long time. What else is on here that we haven't touched on? May 7th is our next monthly meeting, and it will be someone from the Smithsonian who works with leafcutter ants, who farm fungi. So I'm excited for that one. Here's some save the dates for the late summer and fall forays that happen. Our club's annual retreat is Labor Day weekend up in Jennerstown, Pennsylvania at a camp called Sequinota. So save that one, if nothing else. But the NAMA foray is going to be out in Washington State, which should also be awesome this year. Uh, I don't think registration has opened up yet for that, but I bet that spaces will go quickly. We'll try and keep you posted when that is open. Rick Silver asked us to share that he's screening the movie that was made about his expedition to Nepal to look for mushrooms in the Himalayas. There's a screening of it on the 14th at Avalon Theater in Chevy Chase. There's a bunch of people from the club who were in that movie. Sorry, I clicked a little early there. And then Annie Weissman just shared this symposium that's happening on the 12th. It's a Friday all day at AU about the therapeutic use of psychedelic drugs. So they're going to get into policy issues and also the neuroscience. Sounds like it should be an interesting symposium about certainly a hot topic. And I didn't get a chance to include it, but Bridget shared with me that there's definitely policy stuff going on in Maryland right now too that we'll try and get into the news next month. A little bit more club news. Some of us from the club made it out to the DC Environmental Film Festival. Was that last week? Where they showed two fungi movies. There's one that's a little bit under an hour called The Web of Life that's got Merlin Sheldrake and Bjork narrating, and some gorgeous time-lapse photography. If you have a chance to see that, it's a really pretty film. And then there's a much shorter film that they showed alongside it called Flora, Fauna, Funga that was just absolutely delightful. Merlin Sheldrake again, but really focused on Juliana Furci and Toby Kears and their work trying to map out mycelial networks around the world and to promote the conservation of fungi and to sort of get it considered along with flora and fauna in conservation decision making. And that one is actually on YouTube. If you just search flora, fauna, fungi, it came up when I looked for it. Maybe we'll show it at Sequinota too, because it's a really their passion just shines through as they're hunting for mushrooms. It was really fun. Also at that event, which was co-sponsored by National Geographic, we discovered that this month's issue of National Geographic magazine has fungi on the cover and a whole bunch of different short articles on fungi. So if you don't subscribe already, it might be worth tracking down a copy. There's some beautiful photography in it, if nothing else. And a fun centerfold that has the phylogenetic tree of mushrooms. All right, moving on to more in the news. About this time last year, I think I mentioned this mushroom poisoning out in Montana, where a sushi restaurant included raw morels in some of their sushi rolls. And about 51 people got sick. Two of them died from eating raw morels, which seems worth mentioning at this time of year when people are about to start hunting morels. But it was in the news again, also because the Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report that CDC puts out had the sort of final report from the assessment of what happened. And they tracked down all the people that got sick and documented their symptoms. It's a interesting article if you want to learn more about what happens to you when you eat raw morels. Don't do it. And they sort of established that there was what we call a dose response, where people who ate more of the raw morels got sicker than people who ate less. And there was also apparently some of the days that they served the morels, they like poured boiling broth over them, so they were sort of undercooked but more cooked, and the people that ate those got less sick than the people that ate the totally raw ones. So it just seemed very, very clear that this poisoning really was caused by the morels. So thoroughly cook your morels before you eat them. Uh, there's another report that just came out that got the Post just had an article on this that was based on a report that Public Citizen put out on March 18th about several different problems that are coming up with AI tools that people are using that are sort of generating mushroom misinformation in possibly very dangerous ways. So they cite another study from Australia that in 2022 tested out several different ID tools, including iNaturalist and also Picture Mushroom, Mushroom Identificator. And they found that when they gave them mushrooms, the ID was correct less than half the time. So a word of warning to all of us who are using iNaturalist on a regular basis, the crowdsourcing part of that, where actual humans are looking at your mushroom pictures, is quite important. Um, and sometimes these tools identified toxic mushrooms as an edible species. So their misidentifications were not just wrong, but potentially dangerously wrong. So that was one category that this report looks at. Another category that they look at is that you guys may have seen stories that there are all these AI generated books, right, that are popping up on Amazon and in places. And one of the sets of AI generated books that is being put up for sale are mushroom field guides, which are not always correct. In fact, just using predictive text and scraping things out of Wikipedia. So definitely ask around about what the good human authored field guides are before buying a field guide. And then the third category that they look at is this new generative AI search that Google has implemented, and that it is sometimes producing weird results. So they share this example where they put in the Google search how to cook Amanita ocreata, which is a toxic species, deadly poisonous. And the Google search results just gave them some instructions about how to cook this mushroom. So just it's very interesting that the Public Citizen piece gets into even more examples of things they sort of tried with ChatGPT. It's an interesting and sort of depressing read, but just with mushrooms, as with everything else, take any AI generated results with a grain of salt, and there's no substitute from learning from other people who know what they're doing. That is all of my news for this month. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I will turn things over to Mitch for the ID table.
Cool, thanks.